All right, guys. So today I want to talk about writing a novel. Now, there are a ton of benefits with writing a novel. First things first is it's an opportunity for great self-expression and creativity. I really love that you're able to just express yourself, use your creativity, and there's no judgment with it. You can just flow and let it go. It's also a great opportunity to entertain other people and impact other people. I have been impacted by some novels so much that I can't even put it into words. It's made me really embrace my creativity, really appreciate other people's creativity. Novels are amazing in this way. And then also a great benefit that many people often overlook is they're very therapeutic. It's a great way to escape from reality or to process some thoughts or to entertain yourself or to entertain other people or just to embrace your creativity. We all know writing is therapeutic, but especially this form of writing can be considered therapeutic. Now, simply put, a novel is a fictional story that is told in a narrative form that is the length of a book. Typically, a novel is over 40,000 words, but we'll talk about the exact page lengths of different forms of books in a moment. The difference between a book and a novel is that a book is a collection of written work bound together, while as a novel is a type of book which is fictional and narrative in form, okay? Now, there's different types of novels, so to speak, right? There's a typical novel, a standard novel, which is 60,000 to 100,000 words. Some people will write those at 50,000 or 40,000 words, but overall, the average is usually above 60,000 words, okay? Novellas are closer to 20,000 to 50,000 words. Novelettes are under 20K words, and then there's short stories, which are under 7K words. So here's a couple important things that I want you to consider when writing a novel. First things first is I want you to consider your point of view. There are a lot of different viewpoints when you're creating a novel. You can write in first person, which is a story told from the perspective of the writer, right? There's second person. This is the reader is addressed directly. Then there's third person limited, where the narrator only has insight to the thoughts and the feelings of each character at an individual time. There's third person omniscient. I never say that right, but a narrator is all knowing and can reveal anything at any point about any character or any situation throughout the entire story. Your goal is to determine what point of view the reader will be reading your story from. Then there's genre, which there's a ton of genres, and we'll go over those. There's crime, fantasy, romance, science fiction, Western, inspirational, historical fiction, horror. There's a lot of different genres, but your goal is to consider what genre of fiction writing or novel writing you'd like to do. Then you're going to want to spend time reading other novels, especially those that are in your genre, right? You can't write a strong book unless you really understand how they're structured or unless you truly understand from a reader's perspective how what it's like to read them. One benefit that I see from reading other novels is it really informs your writing. It helps you to become a stronger writer, a more intentional writer. You'll have a better understanding of what's already been done and how you can either expand on that, change that, or totally scrap that idea. You'll also see what's been proven to be really popular or successful in that area, okay? And obviously, if you really, really enjoy writing novels, you're gonna wanna read them so that you can continue to hone in and advance your skill. Finally, you're gonna wanna know your audience thoroughly, okay? The last thing you want to do is assume that this novel is interesting to everybody and know that it's going to feel that way to you. But if you write a book to everyone, you write it to no one. Some people may really, really like mystery. Some people may really like Western, right? You got to know what is going to engage or entice your audience and bring them into you. That's going to be so important. And the best way to do that is talk to somebody who is typically a reader of that type of genre of book. Now, let's talk about the steps to writing your novel. First things first is you want to identify the topic and the genre, which is what we talked about. You really want to have a thorough understanding of that. Then again, like we mentioned, you want to read books on that genre so that you're a more informed writer, and you also understand from a writer and reader's perspective. You're going to want to understand the point of view and choose which one you feel is best and keep that consistent throughout the story. You're going to want to determine the setting, okay? This is important. The key here is really bringing it into context. The context and the setting of your novel will dictate everything about your novel, right? It'll dictate the plot. It'll dictate the characters' perspectives. make sure that if you're going to write about a setting, you really understand the setting. So let's say you're writing about something about the Great Lakes, right? You want to truly do your research to know what you're writing about the Great Lakes, because you might have a historian that reads your book and they're like, hold on, I don't really know about that. I remember I just was reading the book Little Fires Everywhere, and I am actually from a town that's close to the town that it took place in, which is Shaker Heights, Ohio. And so from that perspective, like a lot of my friends graduated from Shaker Heights, and so I understood Shaker from a very unique perspective. And so I think that the author did a very, very good job of writing from that perspective, but they probably did the work. That wasn't by happenstance. So you want to make sure you really understand and have done your research on that setting. Then you'll want to develop your character, meaning you really understand your character. Who is your character? What does your character want? What has happened to your character? What is motivating your character? What goals does your character have? What changes does your character go through throughout the entire story? One thing that my clients do that has been very helpful is they create character profiles. I mean, they like lay into their character, identifying what their character looks like, even things that may not be included in the story. They really know their character as if it's a real person, and that helps you to structure the story more effectively because you look at your character as if they're real. So consider naming your character. Consider thinking of your characters past, present, and future. Just really understanding and honing in and developing that character so that when you're writing with that level of confidence and really enticing and engaging your audience. Then you're going to want to lay out the plot, okay? So think about what is the conflict that your character will run into. Is it an internal conflict? Is it an external conflict? You want to really identify these conflicts so that you can best have your novel sorted out and to lay out what happens, okay? This is super, super important as well. Once you identify the plot and the conflict and really understand the trajectory of the story, then you'll move into wanting to outline your story. Now, this is really, really important because I think a lot of times as creatives, we want to just write and we just want to flow. And here's the thing, you don't have to follow your outline to a T, but you want to have somewhat of a blueprint so that you can stay in line. The last thing you want to do is create a character and then you start writing, you're like, oh, I totally want to scrap that. You create a new character, but then you've developed 4 different conflicts and 4 different plots, and the book becomes not only overwhelming for you as a writer, but overwhelming for your reader as well. So your end goal is to really identify the layout and the plot of your book and to outline that so that you have a structure to follow as you're continuing to write. You could do a synopsis where you just kind of briefly outline the overall major part of the story. You can mind map, you could outline it, you could I use like an index card formatting where it's kind of like I write down my key points and I follow those directives. You just want to have somewhat of a structure so that when you move into step number 8, which is writing your book, you know what you're writing. A lot of people get stuck between step number 7 and number 8, right? They have the outline, they may even, or somewhere between 6 and 8, they have the layout, but the actual process of sitting down and writing your book can feel extremely overwhelming. At this point, I want you to commit to understanding that you are the creative here, and it's not by accident that you have this story in mind. It's not by accident that you want to share this story with the world. So trust that creative skill of yours and allow it to flow within your writing. Also trust the fact that you've read other books successfully and learned a lot from that, and that's going to inform your writing. Trust the fact that you know your audience, whether you've talked to them or whether you studied them, and that all is going to help structure your writing to create a successful book. So you got to move into 8 with confidence. Step number 9 is to get a quality editor. This is where a lot of people mess up as well because they'll get an editor that edits for grammar or for punctuation, but you need an editor that's going to really edit for structure and flow, and most importantly, the development of your story. Meaning that from a reader's perspective, as they're reading it, does this story continue to develop and have a full picture, or is it missing pieces? Is it too overwhelming? Is it something that they can comprehend? Is it frustrating? Understanding from the reader's perspective how to structure and craft and edit your story so that you're publishing a masterpiece, okay? Understand that the rough drafts are called rough drafts for reasons because they're rough the first time around. This is where an editor comes in to to really perfect and create a quality story overall. And then you move into the fun part, which is publishing and being sure to get your book in the hands of the people that need it most. So that was a very brief overview of how to write a novel. What I want you to take away from this is embracing your creativity while entertaining others is the best use of your gift. I had a pastor once tell me that someone's blessing is tied up in the story you're unwilling to share. So this is your opportunity to share your story and bless somebody else. Don't miss it. I'm going to let you dive in and get started, and I hope that you have an amazing day.